So this is Pudee's top 10 list of 2013. So my number 10 game is a little indie platformer called Thomas Was Alone. You play a group of quadrilaterals with all different kinds of skills, like one can jump higher, one can float on water, stuff like that. And it's kind of a little puzzle platformer game with a touching story, surprisingly touching for when you're playing a group of quadrilaterals. It's got a funny narrator, which seems to be the norm, and everything like that. So yeah, pretty cool, quirky indie platformer. Number 9 is Batman Arkham Origins. The first of the most recent Batman games not to be made by Rocksteady, and there is a certain decline in quality because of that, but it's still a Batman game. It's still got all the right base pieces there to be built on by the new developer, and the story is intriguing, not so much for Batman, but for some of his villains and how they started to become his villains. Number 8 is Papers, Please, a game that came out on Steam this year. It's a weird game where you play as a border patrol person in a fictitious, like Eastern European country, but it's got a really unique charm to it in that you do feel like you're working, but you don't want to stop. It's very addicting, and all the different characters that you meet along the way trying to get into your country will definitely stick with you after you finish playing it. Number 7 is Guacamelee, a game that should be on any list just by its name alone. It is a Metroidvania style game where you play as Juan, a luchador who is killed and then brought back to life, and so with that he gets all these different sort of abilities and things like that, and he has to, like a normal game, has to go save the princess. But really fun gameplay, really cool story, and really funny as well in all the little Easter eggs too. Number 6 is Rogue's Legacy, a roguelike 2D platformer. It's a really interesting game, as in you don't keep most of your progress when you die, but you do still feel like you're progressing through the game in that you learn the enemies' moves, you learn how to attack them and how to dodge them, and you feel like you do get better even though you're not really advancing as far in the story. So yeah, really interesting game. Number 5 is Tomb Raider, a reboot of the classic Tomb Raider series. It is very interesting in that it does take the darker, grittier sort of route that most media has taken in recent times, but it's still a lot of fun. You do actually feel like you're fighting to survive on the island that Lara is stranded on, and it's a very cool game, lots of cool gameplay, and the story is touching in a certain sort of way as well. Number 4 is GTA 5, probably one of the biggest game releases of the year. It does lack in certain places as the story and individual aspects of gameplay, but as a whole there's just hasn't been an experience like it yet in gaming really. There's so many things you can do, such great variety that you will never get bored, even though if you play it for like 50 to 100 hours. And even though the online's kind of still broken at the moment, the moments that I have played online that worked were extremely fun and makes me want to play it more. Number 3 is Tearaway, the new game from Media Molecule, the guys who did Little Big Planet. You can see the genetics of Little Big Planet in this game, whereas it's very creative. It depends highly on the player to kind of push you through the world, and you get to create snowflakes, create hilts for the gear around the world. You can modify your character, so it's a very charming game that everyone who has a Vita should play, just because it utilizes all of the features on the Vita so well. Number 2 is Ni no Kuni, a JRPG that came out earlier in the year. It manages to marry the main aspects of a JRPG and a game like Pokemon very, very well. So, you know, two addicting game types come together and just make this amazing game that tells the story of Oliver, who, you know, is working through the country, this world in the Ni no Kuni, and, you know, trying to make everyone else better through him. It also features cutscenes from Studio Ghibli, which, you know, just enhances any sort of medium. My number 1 game of the year is The Last of Us, the final PS3 game from Naughty Dog. They managed to create a world that is very, very believable and very. It's kind of hard to play through this game because of the stuff you have to do in it. But yeah, the main characters of Joel and Ellie, they've nailed them. They're really, really lifelike in, you know, their facial expressions and the conversations they have. And also, Naughty Dog didn't really pull any punches with the ending, which I think is very, very cool. They kind of had this story in mind that they wanted to tell you, and they did it without compromising. Which, yeah, that's why it's my game of the year.